That is, these have come so that your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may be proved genuine and may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Though you haven't seen him, you love him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy, for you are receiving the end result of your faith, the salvation of your souls. We are continuing, as those who are with us every Sunday know that we are doing a series on 1 Peter. And with 3 Sundays we have reached now verse 7. Then this talks about the nature of Christian faith. 3 important aspects of the Christian faith. When Peter is trying to define faith to all those who are living in the various Roman provinces, he defines faith using 3 key words, and that's what I would like to look at. Faith should be genuine. That's the first thing. And faith should work without sight. And thirdly, faith should be joyful. Let me repeat the 3 things again. Faith should be genuine, and faith should work without sight, and faith should be joyful. Now, we live in a world filled with counterfeits, fakes. There was a time some products came out of were in the market, and they were marked like this, made in USA. And people bought these things in those days when there were a lot of import restrictions. It's not easy to import things, and imported things were expensive. And this was available in markets in India very cheap, made in USA. And they found out it is not made in USA, it is made in India. So some consumers took the company to court, and the company won, because they say USA doesn't stand for, when we mark the United States of America, it simply means Ulhasnagar Sindhi Association. And they won. The USA can be Ulhasnagar Sindhi Association. Ulhasnagar is a suburb of Bombay, you know that. And it can be United States of America. Who said we made it in USA? The counterfeits, fakes. Now, faith can also be fake. There's a lot of fake faith around. Now, for some people, faith is a belief system. We have a set of beliefs, rules, and we believe in this, and that is faith for many of us. For many of us in the sense, I'm talking about those who are in this room, I'm talking about this modern culture. Faith is a culture, simply a culture. Now, we share that culture. Going to Sunday morning, and praying and being in a Sunday service and giving an offering or praying a rosary or this or that has become a culture. It's a culture. I was visiting a house here in the nearby housing society, and I went there, and this lady was very happy that I visited her, and she knew me as a pastor, and she was not from our church. And then I said, okay, we are going. Thank you very much. And she said, will you like to pray? I said, yes. I said, can I pray? She said, yeah, you can pray. And then she ran, and then she wanted to light a candle. She said, can I light a candle? I said, need not, you see, because then I prayed. Because for her spirituality is a culture. When somebody comes, when a priest comes and he prays or she prays, she lights a candle before the crucifix or before Virgin Mary, the Madonna, and that is how she can pray. It's a culture. Some of us in the sense for this modern culture, faith is a set of rituals, simple rituals. You might have seen in Pune, in any part of world in India, when you go and you just, tap that bell, and then you say something, utter something, and go. It's a ritual. Faith is that. Now, have you seen on the way to the HB Road on Bajara Road, there's a huge tree and with a built-up wall or something like that, and you see women going around with a thread. and tying this thread on this tree. They go praying, and that's a ritual. Now, that is, we'll say, this is not all Christian faith. But there are fake faith among us also. The fake is when it is not fully faith. When it is not fully faith. I saw a man drinking Coca-Cola, taking sips of Coca-Cola in a train compartment. A young man taking sips of Coke. Sips of Coke. And I said, why this man is taking sips of Coke? After every meal he takes a good drink from this Coke. Then when I heard he and his friends talking, this is not Coke. It is a drink, a rum or something mixed with Coke. Because in train you are not allowed to take liquor. You are not allowed to use liquor. And it's a fine for it. So what you do is, you mix whiskey with Coke and drink. And that is sometimes the fake faith that we hold on. See, there are mutually exclusive things. The love of the world is enmity to God. But we mix it. We take a little bit of world and little bit of love of God, and we mix it in different proportions, and that is a dangerous faith. This juggling, you know what is juggling? Juggling between God and the world. World from Monday to Sunday, and on Sunday morning we juggle God. See, we juggle between these two. And that's fake. But what Peter talks about, the genuine faith. You know what James said? Whoever wants there to be a friend of the world, make himself an enemy of God. That is faith. Now, what is the genuine faith? Peter uses a word which is actually used for a crucible. A crucible, that's something where you test gold and purify gold. And this verse is translated variously in your translation. Sometimes it will say, the test of your faith may prove. Sometimes some translations will say, genuineness of your faith. But the real meaning is, the faith after it is tested. That is what the real meaning is. Once the faith goes through a test, what comes out after that test is what Peter talks about. And that is why it is called the genuine faith, the real faith, not the fake faith. You know that I have a chemistry background. We have a chemistry background. I have a chemistry background. I'm a chemistry graduate. And we talk about the pure substance. See, you know, clay is a dirty thing. Clay is a dirty thing. But clay with traces of gold is called impure clay. In chemical terms. In terms of chemistry, clay, 1 kg of clay with 750 grams of gold will still be called impure clay. Gold is precious, yes, but a precious thing doesn't make clay 100% clay. It's impure. In chemical terms, that clay is impure. In a similar manner, we're talking about gold which has traces of silver in it is impure, because it's not pure gold. But what we do is, then if we get a lump of clay with gold, then we dissolve it in water and take the insoluble gold out, which is impure, which makes the clay impure, and then you get pure clay. It may look funny to you, isn't it? But for chemistry it is not. And similarly, if you have a block of gold and it has iron ore in it, we put it through a furnace, through a crucible, and remove all the impurities, and what you get is called pure gold. And that is what faith is. A faith that can stand the test. A faith that can stand the test. Now there are lots of tests that the faith has to go through. Peter is addressing a group of people who are probably persecuted or ready to be persecuted, about to go through persecution. Persecution is a test of faith. That is the time when people have to think whether it is worth keeping this faith, or should they escape persecution. That's the most common time. And many people give up when persecution of a small nature come on their way. Now, I don't want to bring examples from Orissa or from other places where there's very severe persecution going on. Let me come to very real life situations. I know a lady, and she became a Christian, but her husband remained, I don't know, a Hindu or a Parsi or he was not a believer. But their marriage was all right. But there was a time came where her children, her daughters became Christians as well. So the mother and the daughters are believing Christians and the father is not. And the father never didn't say anything and he just didn't approve it, or neither did he disapproved it. But there came a time when this girl passed 12, the eldest girl passed 12, and she had to go to college. And she needed money. And the mother was a school teacher, didn't have enough money. Then the father told her, if you need to go to college, I will give you money. This is a right real situation, a person whom I know, right in Pune, and I have worshipped with her, I have ministered to her. And the father put his feet down and said, now decide. If you want to go with your mother as far as your faith is concerned, then your mother will provide for your college education. But if you choose to respect what I believe, then I will give you the money for college. And the girl had to take a difficult choice. And she chose the father's money and the father's demands. That is what real faith is. A faith that works when you are not under duress, that cannot be called a real faith. A faith that has to be tested, really tested. And if that can withstand the test, don't think of a persecution and being thrown to lions and fighting with gladiators. I'm not talking about that. Will your faith and my faith withstand that test? This sort of test. Simple test. It's not a very simple test. See, don't think of lions and gladiators and all that sort of thing. Let us be very realistic. When such things come in our life, will our faith stand? Character is another test. Character. You see, we are all law-abiding citizens, but there comes times when we make mistakes. Then we have to. Sometimes the police harass us. But when I had this test in my own life. When police catches you for a very legal thing, there are 3 ways of getting out. One is, you can always be. There is only one police department in the whole world where you can bargain about the fine. That is in India, or especially in Pune. Everywhere it is fixed price. You see, but here is the price. You can from 250 to 20 rupees you can bargain, and you can get away with it. There was a time I was caught, and I said I'll pay you later, and the officers let me go. Yeah. And the officer let me go because I didn't have money. I said I will go to the next ATM, and he said, "Where's the ATM? Which bank?" I said, "It's this bank." Oh, he said, "There is no ATM. You go." Now here there's a lot of ways of doing it. But when you are wrong, and when he finds you, you can also negotiate. Say, "I'm sorry for what I did," and all that. All these are possible. But then we have to really think, which way are we getting out? Character is a very, very important test of our faith. That comes with various other things. We have just had a series of sermons on 11 sermons I preached on fruit of the Spirit, patience and love and all sort of things, self-control. That's a character that is to be tested by and real faith. And third is ambitions. Now in my ministry, I have 4th century of my ministry. And I'm so proud of it. I have come across people who compromised their faith when it came to life's crucial decisions. For example, marriage. They thought it is better to marry the person whom you love than keep your faith. They went for that. There are people who sacrifice their faith for a better career. They never told them who they are. I know people who change their name from a Christian name to a Hindu name in order to enjoy benefits and get a better job, in order not to be what you can call as mistreated in the workplace, they took over a Hindu name. Because they said they may be mistreated or they may be sidelined in the office. So they took a name, different name, moved to a different city. Why? Because they want to hide their faith. That is the test of faith. A faith that works under pressure. Still will. So and when it goes through the trial and temptations and the fiery furnace, a faith that will stand. And that is what the nature of Christian faith. And the second aspect is faith that doesn't demand sight. Now you may ask, there is a good word in English, blind faith. Why don't you use that? Because it's a misleading word. That's why I'm saying a faith that doesn't need sight. Sight. Here he says, look at that verse. Where is that? What does it say? It says, though you don't see him, you yet believe. Though you do not know him, you love. You haven't seen this Jesus whom you love. You have been really known him, but you still believe in him. Real faith, let me start with this. Real faith involves love. Real faith, real spirituality. So there are a lot of faiths or religions or spirituality where there is no love. Why do you worship a God? Because you fear that God. Fear is the only basis. Fear is the only basis. When we go up or down the hill stations, the winding roads, usually the tourist buses, they stop at shrines. And you know why they stop there? Now, I used to make a trip to every year, 2 times a year, I have this ritual of going and bringing my children back to Kodai. And there was a shrine of a god, the sight of him, frightening sight with a tongue and his tongue stuck out and eyes bulging, and he has a trishul in his hand and a big tummy and completely painted dark blue. Frightening sight. And the priest at that time would also, shrine is also has a long hair, has a long beard, and his fear itself is very frightening. And invariably every tourist bus stops there and pay an offering. You know why? Not because they love that image there. They are frightened. Simply frightened. Bengal. The Kali Puja, Kali worship. Why? Because it's not loud. Many of these things you cannot love them. They are frightening. But Christian faith is different. When Peter went back, you know what Jesus said? Do you believe in me? No. What did Jesus ask Peter? Do you love me? That's it. Because for Christian faith stands out from all our faiths because it has a devotional foundation. There's a foundation of love. And that's what is demanded from us. Genuine faith. Now, but the problem is, it was easy for Peter. It was easy for John. John, when he wrote in 1 John, what did he write? What we have seen with our eyes and what our hands have touched, we declare to you. It was easy for John to believe because he knew Jesus. He saw Jesus. He touched Jesus. He ate with Jesus. And John was loving something he saw. Peter, the same way. When Jesus stood before him and asked, do you love me more than this? What was he saying? He knew whom he was going to love. He knew. Peter knew. Peter saw. But not us. Those of us who are far away from that historical cross. The 2000 years away from that cross, from the man of Nazareth, when he walked on the face of the earth, we haven't seen him. And we know that not a single portrait of him is real. Right? We know that. But how can we love someone whom we haven't seen? That's the test of real faith. They say, we have this famous saying, love at first sight. Which means love needs some sight. Right? And always feel sorry for a old uncle of mine. We are not related, uncle in the social sense. He had to marry a woman whom he didn't really love. Not only that, the funny side of it is that he didn't even see her. What really happened, if the story I can believe, is this, that when he went to see those old days of these arranged marriages and all that, this boy was taken to this girl's house and they showed her sister and they swapped her in the wedding day. And when he realized that he is going to marry her, the beautiful sister's ugly sibling, he tried to walk out of the marriage. And at that, it was too late. Everything was set in the church and the dinner was ready and the girl is dressed up and these guys played with and he said, no, man, that does make a difference. You know, she's the eldest anyway, you cannot marry the younger beautiful sister and he had to marry her. It's a miserable marriage. And one day he told me that, Paulson, when you are married, they said, the priest said, you are one body. But when we were married, the priest said that you are two bodies. And he was joking, he got used to it. It's like that, you know. You get used to anything in your life because there was an escape, there was an exit there in his life. And he lived with that woman and she is still alive, he is dead. I think if he had married that the one whom he actually chose or really loved, you know, he loved her for a few weeks till from engagement to marriage, and on the marriage day he gets somebody else. But still, see, this is not fictional, this is real story. This is a real story. You need faith. The faith needs, love needs sight. But what is demanded is a love that, a faith that requires love without sight. And that is why in Corinthians, Paul wrote, let me just quote it out of the context. Paul wrote, for we walk by faith and not by sight. We are not guided by what we see. We are guided by what we do not see. So that is what the demand of faith, the genuine faith, the real faith. See, for example, the 11th chapter of Hebrews. Did they see everything? The heroes of faith? No. They didn't see anything. But they had faith, a faith that works without sight. Now, that is where we're still being able to love someone whom we haven't seen. How do we do that? We do it because we experience the invisible Jesus in our daily life. That is how it happens. We love Him because it's still possible. It's still possible. When we experience that invisible Jesus in our daily life. That experience is what makes us love Him, not that what we see. Now coming to the second aspect. Though you do not know Him, you live in Him. So you haven't seen Him, but you still love Him. See, have you thought of children? The father, by the time the child was born, the father had to go abroad. There are a number of cases in Kerala because most of our population lives in either in America or in Gulf countries. And the child is born. Before the child is born, the father is already in Gulf and he comes and then, but the child grows up, but the mother tells the child, your dad is in the Gulf and he is coming. And the child loves the dad, though he hasn't seen the dad. But the child, how does that bonding happen? The dad sends toys, the dad sends pictures, the dad sends money, and though the child hasn't seen the dad, still the child loves the dad. And that sort of a dimension is there in our spirituality. The nature of Christian faith. There is, though we haven't seen Jesus, many of us can say, Jesus healed me, Jesus helped me, Jesus was there in my journey. And that is where we love Jesus, the experiences of Jesus in our daily life. How many of you have seen a UFO? unidentified flying objects. Have you seen a UFO? Have you? And you may be thinking, well, I have seen. No, I also haven't seen. I don't believe in UFOs. I don't believe in unidentified flying objects. The former American President Jimmy Carter says he has sighted UFOs. I don't know. Okay? I don't believe. You know why? Because I haven't seen one. And I'm not going to believe in a UFO until I see one. Why should I see? Why should I believe unless I see a UFO? Why should you believe in Jesus? Why should you believe in Jesus? I'm not talking about love. The other aspect, you believe in Him. See, that is the magic of Christian faith. You believe in Him, though you haven't really seen Him. That is the amazing aspect of Christian faith. What if God doesn't answer our prayers? Have you gone through that spiritual crisis? You pray and pray and pray and pray and pray. And then nothing happens in our life. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means God doesn't, Jesus is not there. One possibility, isn't it? You go to your house, you ring the calling bell 2-3 times, nobody responds. What does that mean? That person is not there. The natural conclusion is this. Very simple. When you call a person and the person is not responding, that means that person doesn't exist. Or he is deaf. That's it. Isn't it? So you pray and pray and pray and pray, and nothing happens. And you're praying legitimate prayers for what you think is really in God's will. Still nothing happens. But the real faith is that holds on, still holds on. Still holds on, believing that Jesus is still there. And that's what is called, though you do not know Him, though you haven't seen Him, you still believe in Him. And people ask, what evidence you have for Jesus to be alive? Sometimes you don't have any evidence, but you still believe in Him. And that faith will survive crisis. See? Sometimes I go through that sort of thing. I pray and pray and pray and nothing happens. Last week I had a great surprise. I have told you that I have the habit, and I have encouraged many of you to do that, and I know many of you are doing that. Keeping a prayer journal. Write on one side the prayer requests, other side answered prayers. Last Sunday I went to this church, and I'm visiting this church after three years, I think, at least 3 years. Last time I went there, and there was a lady who came to me in tears and said, pray for my little daughter, and her name is Lydia, and she has a problem with her heart. She was born with that problem with her heart, and doctors say that she has not much hope. I didn't really know the reality, because they have a family has a genetic problem, and their eldest son died of the same disease, and this second daughter is born, and she has the same disease. So they were worried. And I said, I promised that I'll pray for her. But I just did not just promise. I came and wrote it down in my prayer journal. I prayed for Lydia. This time I went, and the first thing I asked people were, is there someone called Lydia here? Or is she still in this church, or she has moved out? And they said, yeah, she's there. She's sitting there. And I said, is this girl with a heart problem? Yes, but now, Pastor, she's completely healed. See, she was healed, and not only that, her younger brother also developed this problem, and he also is healed within these 3 years. Sometimes we don't have evidence. Evidence waits, takes its own time. But real faith is to holding on to Jesus even when there is apparently no evidence, no proof. See, if you give up in the middle, that is not real faith. If you give up in the middle, it is not real faith. That is what the faith that Peter expects from them. Now coming to the third, the faith that is joyful. You might have heard this illustration from n number of times from me. The little child, I'm going to use 2 illustrations in one row. This little child who was walking back from church, and looking at a donkey, he asked the mother, Mom, is this donkey a Christian? You know that story? No. And he's coming from church, 2 hours in the church, long service and going. And then mother asked, why man? Why, my son, why are you asking that? Because he said, no, because this donkey has a very downcast, long face. That's what I'm asking. For him, church or Christians are like that. Donkeys in another sense definitely agree, but not this way. The physical resemblance, the emotion on the face. He said, and then some others also have the same expectation. There was a children child. Now I like children running around, not too much, but a little bit. See? But I have always told you, see, I'm not distracted by children. Because we need children in the church. One of the foundations or the, what you can call values of our church is that we reach out to children. We bring the children up. Before Chorus established as a church, we had a children's ministry. Okay, now we would always hold on to that point. Okay, so that's why we welcome children. And there was a little child in the church, and he was sitting there, and he was looking around everybody and smiling. And he was not throwing his toys around, he was not making noises, he was not pinching people or the other children. He was simply sitting there and smiling at everybody. Now, he was not playing with his mother's wallet, and he was not making any noise, he was not making funny face, but he was simply sitting there and smiling at everybody. You know what the mother did? The mother gave him a nice pinch on his thigh and said, be serious in the church. Don't smile in the church. Because for mother, church is not a place where you should be smiling. But that's absolutely contrary to the scripture. That's I'm not trying to say that all of you should come with a grin and should have a chuckle and all that. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying we should be serious. But Christian faith, you know, the word that I use is glorious joy. Christian faith has a glorious joy. Now, when there is no proof of answered prayers, when there is no icon to worship, when we are worshiping looking at some 2 green balls, and that is the beauty of the free church, the believer's church. It doesn't need a crucifix, it doesn't need a lot of lights, it doesn't need the aid of incense or candles. It can still create devotion without these props. I call them props for spirituality. You know why? Because this faith has been purified and is completely refined. It can still love an invisible God, knowing Him through His scripture, His word, and through our experience. Paul wrote a beautiful verse. Many of us know that by heart, I know. Rejoice in the Lord. And again I say, rejoice. The man who is writing it was in a prison, writing from a prison, awaiting trial, and also expecting death. And he writes, rejoice in the Lord always. And I say, again I say, rejoice. And then he goes on talking about anxiety and peace. That's scripture passage. You know why? Because Christians with anxiety can never be joyful. Anxiety is the exact opposite of being joyful. But Jesus wants us to be joyful, to be happy, to rejoice. That's all that we want. Sometimes it's very difficult to do that. Sometimes it's too much. But we have to transmit, we have to radiate joy of the Lord. Don't be joyful for wrong reasons. You know, that peace that passeth all understanding, that gives us great joy, great happiness, even when there is no ground for joy and happiness. These are the 3 marks of Christian faith. A faith that can stand the test. A faith can take pressure. Maharashtra Chief Minister inaugurated a huge flyover last week in Bombay. And you know how he came for that? He came on a helicopter because he didn't want to drive over that flyover that he's going to inaugurate. He was in the Times of India. Probably he didn't trust that to fly over. Our faith should be tested and proven faith. Genuine faith. A faith that doesn't demand all evidence. Even when there is no evidence. I'm not talking about logical or philosophical reasons. I'm talking about experience. Existential. And then you say, oh yes, I know Jesus lives. I love him. Just like an innocent child loving a distant, absentee father. Do we have that love for Jesus? That's what the question is. Do we have that? Can we believe in Jesus when he doesn't seem to be around us? Look at our own life, your experiences of God, and then you will see there is enough. Jesus has given us sufficient clues to have a lot of love for him. He has given us a lot more, has done quite a lot in our life, so that we can believe in him, even when there are contradictions. There is room for great joy. And we don't count the blessings. We don't care about it. That is why we cannot be happy in Jesus. Now let the Lord give us challenge. Let's be challenged by His word. That real faith. Or can I have this? Will He give me grace to do that? That a faith that will stand the test of persecution, indifference, demands on our moral character, demands on our career choices or life's difficult choices. Will that be real or not? Yes, Lord. Let's pray.